Hello, my name is Andrea Thompson. I'm the founder and director of the film festival, the Film Girl Film Festival, only one not pictured. The rest, who are amazing and gorgeous and on camera, are all the festival jurors. Well, except for one. Hopefully she can join us later, but for now I'd like to ask everyone to go around and introduce themselves and tell us just a little bit about what you do, and we'll explore the rest of your work in the festival later on in the discussion. So, Jessie, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
So I teach at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in the Department of Film, Video, Animation, and New Genres, where I'm the Director of Graduate Studies and Associate Professor. And I'm also a filmmaker and artist, and working on a feature that's taking a long time, experimental documentary right now. So that's a bit about me. Oh, and I also do some curatorial work. I co-program a series called Microlights with Ben Balcom, showcases artist films and seeks to have the artist present. We often bring in visitors, although we've also showcased local artists. We're on hiatus because for us it's really important to be in person, and also feeling a bit screen fatigue. So we have not had any programming this year, sadly, but we hope to resume again. So yeah, happy to be here.
Fingers crossed for you, both for your work with Ben Balcom and your experimental documentary.
Thanks.
And you're welcome. And Michelle, well, how about you next?
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Trujillo. I teach also in the film program at UWM with Jessie. I'm an adjunct instructor there. I'm also a filmmaker, and I make work that mainly explores Latinx histories and identity. I'm originally from the Miami area, and I've been here for a little more than 4 years now.
Glad to have you here. And
Thank you.
Gretchen?
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me here. My name is Gretchen Maycorn. I'm primarily an actress, but also I'm a producer, entrepreneur, and director. I'm originally from Milwaukee. I've dabbled a lot in many different markets, including Chicago, Los Angeles, and currently I'm in Atlanta. A lot of my work what has been theater, doing directing and theater productions, and within the past few years I've transitioned into film, television, commercial work, as well as now dabbling into producing my own shorts as well. So a little bit of everything.
Nice, nice. And last but by no means least, Molly?
That's all right. My last name starts with V. I'm always at the end of the alphabet. So my name is Molly Vey. I am, in my daily life, the Milwaukee Filmmaker Alliance manager at Milwaukee Film. So I oversee our filmmaker and artist support services. And then I came to it in a very weird way, but my background is predominantly in script writing, both for theater and film. And I lived and worked in New York City for a while, and somehow ended up in Milwaukee. I'm not from here. I didn't know anybody, but I have also been here just over 4 years. So that's a fun fact. Michelle, I like it.
Nice.
And I do a bunch of other weird, creative, strange things in the side. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for asking me to be on this jury.
Oh, of course. We're glad to have you all here. And what you, Molly, said about that you somehow found yourself here, but you really enjoy it. That goes into the next question I'd like to ask you all, and that, well, not all of you, such as Gretchen, are in Milwaukee, but it's very much a base of operations for all of you. So why did you decide to make Milwaukee your base of operations? Molly?
Oh, okay. So I grew up in the Midwest. I'm originally from Ohio and Michigan. And so I'm the other side of the lake is what I like to call it. But I went to school, I went to NYU, and then I stayed and worked in the industry there for a little while. And everything that could go wrong went wrong in the period of about a week.
Oh, wow.
It's a very expensive city to live in, especially if you work in the arts and are too young to probably have picked up and moved to New York. Who knows? And I ended up getting a job working in college admissions for an art school in Georgia. But they needed somebody to cover what they called the Northern Midwest, which was Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska. Sometimes the Dakotas and sometimes Michigan. Who knows? It's that area where it snows. Nobody else from Georgia wanted to go there. And so I moved, and it came down to Minneapolis or Milwaukee. And logistically, I should have moved to Minneapolis. With a theater background, I should have moved to Minneapolis, and I moved here instead, mostly because I like the lake. And it's a really cool, young, affordable, experimental art scene that I didn't know existed here before I got here. And I feel like every day that I'm here, I learn more from the people who make art here and who have chosen to do that. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. So it's been really fun to just kind of learn and grow here. So I found it at the right moment, apparently.
Apparently. Nice. And Jesse, same question.
Sure. I came here for the job, but more specifically for the program itself. I was aware of the program as having, especially the graduate program, I knew it had a kind of experimental or arts-focused take, and I knew that the program in general was open to experimental work, which is where I had found myself as a filmmaker and artist, kind of nonfiction, experimental types of films. And so I went to graduate school in Chicago, and then I was teaching at University of Iowa for a few years, and I came up and visited UWM, visited the grad seminar, and really loved the environment, the facilities, the teachers, and the engagement. And I was friends with some of the faculty and wanted to work with them. So when a job came up, I was always asking Steve Wetzel, if anything opens up at UWM, let me know. Because I'd also realized that I like teaching at a public university with kind of diverse population of students coming with different interests. And I do think the program we have is a really amazing blend of, we're focused towards art, but we support all types of making, and we're cinephiles, but we're also artists. It's just a really exciting blend of approaches to the moving image, and I get to work with people like Michelle, which was very fortunate, and still get to work with her. So yeah, I came here for the community and the school, or maybe I came here for the school and found the community so welcoming and exciting. And I love the city. I'm from Pittsburgh originally, so there is a bit of a kinship with being in a medium-sized city is just right for me at this point in my life. But yeah, I love it. I love the city. So very happy to be here.
Excellent. And Michelle, since you mentioned you, why don't we go with you next?
So what brought me to Milwaukee? So I heard
quite
about
different
this film program.
than Miami, I imagine.
Oh yeah, definitely in many ways. But I think it was like the perfect change that I needed at the point in my life when I came here. I was interested in documentary and experimental film, and I heard about this program. And the more that I looked into it, the more it appealed to me, because I think it had such an open-ended kind of feel to it. So I mean, I applied, I got in, and I'd never been to Wisconsin or visited, and I just moved here. But I think that I have a similar case where I came here, not for a job, I came here for grad school, but I think that I've stayed for the community. There's an amazing experimental film community in the area. Not only experimental film, but there's so many amazing makers here. And yeah, it's really cool to make in this environment and to be around them.
Excellent, excellent. And Gretchen, yeah, you are always traveling, but Milwaukee is very much a place you return to over and over again.
Yeah, so I'm
not so much traveling now. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, not so much with COVID. But yeah, I'm originally from Milwaukee and always kind of grew up in the theater arts scene. I went to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in their Bachelor of Fine Arts acting program and graduated from there. And then actually for 7 years too in Milwaukee, I ran a nonprofit theater company called the World Stage Theater that did a lot of site-specific work and even some inter-arts media where we collaborated with other filmmakers on things. So Milwaukee has always been really home for me, and before I always do end up coming back there because I still have an agency and agent in Chicago, and I think the film community that I've got to act in too, I have collaborated a lot with the students of the UWM film program as an actor and in other ways. So I definitely think it has a very vibrant scene and a very unique landscape as well, because you have, like Jesse was saying, it's a medium-sized town. It's much more doable than a New York or a Chicago or LA, but it also has beautiful landscapes like the lake and outside and more farm or picturesque areas too. So it has a lot of really amazing filming options for filmmakers to create.
Definitely. I think so. And now to the wonderful film festival that's going on in Milwaukee right now. Well, virtually anyway. I want to discuss, I assume you guys haven't seen every short and film in the festival, but I hope some of them are your favorites. So, Jesse, do you have a few favorites that you've seen, or a few you'd like to recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm making my way through, and I would recommend whatever. I have it on the next screen. I'm scrolling. I really enjoyed So What If the Goats Die? I thought that was really beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And subtle.
I loved it when I saw it at Sundance, and I think I'm trying to keep myself out of this, but it's such an amazing feeling to see a short film like that at Sundance and be able to bring it to Milwaukee so even more people can experience it. It's incredible. Sorry, go on.
No, it's really beautiful, and really everything about it is really well done. A period piece is totally worth your time looking at that piece. Local film, just incredible. I watched, I'm still, again, making my way through it. Of course, I'm going to plug One Off, beautiful film. I mean, I'm being a little biased. These films are UWM alumni, but they're beautiful and wonderful. I watched the feature. I'm trying to find the name. Sorry, so I'm looking at it. It was really worth watching. The Dilemma of Desire. I feel like I learned a lot, and I'm a woman, and I've been a woman I haven't been a woman my whole life. I don't know what that means. But I learned a lot about the female anatomy that I didn't know. So it is worth your time.
Same. I'm discussing that one since it encompasses so many issues with the director tomorrow. Maybe a few more people, but mainly the director, I hope. And about So What If the Goats Die? That's the woman who shot it is from Morocco, and she said she used mostly non-actors, so non-professional actors and all that. So
they're great. Yeah, I thought that because of the cast you can see. Yeah.
Definitely. Molly, why don't we start with any that have struck you?
Yeah. Okay. So I also have been not great at being a jury member and have been catching up on my film.
We all yell shame at the same time.
No, but I luckily came off of a film festival that had some of these films in it. And then some of them I just know, having known the filmmakers and things. So I'm always, I also loved The Dilemma of Desire. I think it's fantastic. I think it bothers me that you learn things about yourself and like bodies at 29, but that's fine.
Oh yeah,
well, we're all learning.
Remember the female biologist said she didn't know.
I know. I hate it.
I didn't know.
It's a little binary in its definition of gender at the start, but it really wants to talk about everything. So it is a fun film, I think, to kind of dive into some subjects to start. If you're a little overwhelmed, it's a great place to start, and then you can kind of do some deep diving from there. And the director is fantastic, so I'm excited to hear that you're going to talk to her tomorrow.
Hopefully, yes.
I also always will pitch people to watch our local work and support those, especially the shorts, because I think sometimes shorts can be hard for non-film people to understand why they're made. That's at least what I hear from my family who are not film people. And so Jessie stole all of my suggestions, but I strongly second all of the choices. Yeah, and I definitely encourage, there's a solid chunk of local features, which is really great, and some fiction work, I know we definitely see a lot of experimental and documentary come out of Milwaukee, so it's cool to see that we have some solid features. Yeah,
I really wanted to. Every year I try to do this, but this year I really wanted to make this a celebration of the Milwaukee film community. So, And Gretchen, do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else, I'm still making my way through all of the shorts in the film. But for shorts, some of them, gosh, it's so hard because there's so many different genres and like different ways of storytelling and narrative. So one of them I really enjoyed was Anna. That was,
I believe.
Yeah, Anna. It was just really stunning and well done, and a really interesting plot. And I always think with shorts, kind of going off of what Molly was saying, like, why are they created? And it's always like, if I'm like kept intrigued. And then another touching one, which was period drama, Alina, was another kind of like suspense, but also like made, historical drama about World War II, which
way too relevant.
Right, which was so relevant, but all, kind of like the juxtaposition of history and nowadays. And I thought it was just very beautifully shot as well. And then, for a feature, I thought it was really interesting how it was done. It was subtle and very cool filmmaking. And I actually saw a lot of familiar Milwaukee faces. Was maybe I'm going to butcher the name of this feature, but Ringo Levio. Ringo
Levio, yes.
Ringo Levio. Yeah, I thought, I'm still making my way through, but I thought it was very subtle, very interesting, focusing on family dynamics and looking at it from a storytelling point of view, and how, especially too, how it was shot and the colorization of it.
Yeah, you really felt like they weren't trying to, but you really felt how the main character would feel so isolated in that kind of dynamic that was so close-knit.
Right, and it really felt like you were there, like you were another person in it, how it was shot as well. It wasn't just like, it felt very like, oh, wow, I'm another person there.
Definitely. And Michelle?
One of my favorites so far, I am also still working my way through the films, but one of my favorites so far is Loteria. I think that it's like a really creative and beautiful metaphor for life. And it was really exciting to experience that film for me. I'll echo Jessie with One Off and Period Piece being really great. And also Sin Cielo. I really like that one. It'll hit you like a ton of bricks, but it's really good.
Thank you. I would also, do you know about Princessa in my shorts block 4, my drama shorts 4?
I still have to see that one.
I want to recommend that one too.
Cool.
Like Loteria, I believe that was the director's, I believe that was her senior thesis.
Yeah, I was surprised when I read that. It's really, really good.
I'm going to jump in on that because I saw that one too, and it was really interesting, talking about like how it like kind of intrigues you as you go along. It was really really stunning and well done, and with the lighting and
Oh yeah, she said she really wanted to celebrate all the beauty, the vibrancy, and the folklore of Mexican American culture. So I'd say she succeeded so gorgeously.
Yeah, I felt it.
I could not believe she frankly, that she was a student.
Wow, yeah.
Because yeah, showing that amount of skill and precision in her first as a student. No offense to the students here, but to me, I was surprised. Perhaps I have some prejudices left in me. And speaking of kind of inclusivity, Jesse, I want to direct this question to you first, and then get it all to you all. Let's face it, we've all spoken of our fondness of Milwaukee, but we also have to kind of recognize that it has some issues in regards to say the least, and we're cited frequently as the most segregated city in the country. So I'd like to hear from you guys as to how Milwaukee can kind of address its issues and be more inclusive. So Jesse, do you have an opinion on this? Anything do you think we can do? Feel the pressure.
Yeah, I have an opinion for sure. I wish I had the solution. I mean, I do think it's coming to Milwaukee. This is my 6th year here, and not knowing that much about it outside of its, the UWM film program and the relative size of the city. My impression of the city was totally inaccurate based on demographics, and so coming here and realizing that it's so much more diverse than I knew was such a good thing, but then realizing how segregated it is not a good thing. I mean, I lived in Chicago for 5 years, and Chicago has a similar blueprint, I mean, in terms of segregation and inequity and distribution of wealth. But Milwaukee's history is, I'm a transplant, but the little research I've done, Milwaukee residents didn't get the same kind of economic foothold, and were just, even more sort of devastated by various economic downfalls and tragedies and shocks. So, yeah, I mean, it's surprising when you have this huge public university and your student population is still, and you're in this community that like half the percentage of the population are people of color, and yet your classroom is still really white. And male, to be honest. So, finding ways to try to address that and be more, that's a challenge. The challenge is trying to figure out how to get people into, at least, in my job, we're trying to get people in the program into school. And that's a lot of issues, or that requires a lot of community work and, lobbying for institutional change and government change to put funding and, improve education, all things that have been under fire for a long time. I think in terms of what I feel like I can actually accomplish is considering diversity with, with hiring, with graduate students, with undergraduates. I don't have any say in terms of who gets admitted or not, which is fine with me. But trying to address what is in front of me in my department and bringing it into kind of every class, instead of having like one class that talks about racism or sexism, is like kind of finding ways to incorporate that into all classes, because in film we watch and we talk about work all the time, and we see this institutionalized racism and sexism and homophobia and transphobia, and we got to talk about it. So I guess that's what I think conversation is always important in terms of like a micro level, a community-based level. And then I do think political activism, I'm writing, being present, voting, knowing who your alder people are, lobbying for changes. I mean, these are all things that I think are really valuable. Maybe, unfortunately not immediate changes, but that's what I've tried to do in my classroom, is address these things throughout each class, as opposed to saying like, well, you should just take this one class. It addresses all these problems.
Yeah, and as someone who lived a long time in Milwaukee and now lives in Chicago, I also see the segregation in Chicago, but there seems to be more mixing between people of different backgrounds of all kinds. And I don't think that's just because of the size of Chicago. I think it just seems less segregated. It seems like there's more steps toward diversity. I think that people that's not to say people in Milwaukee aren't trying to be inclusive, but it seems a bit stalled in Milwaukee, and it doesn't seem quite as stalled in Chicago, even though Chicago also has a long way to go. I mean, at least that's my assessment. Do you think that's the case?
I kind of feel, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert in this at all, but I kind of feel like Chicago, when a lot of African-American communities migrated up north and came to Chicago, people stopped in Chicago for longer and then followed labor to Milwaukee.
Oh, you're all our pause now. Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
And so there was a sort of later migration to Milwaukee, and then hence like less time for communities of color to develop like a wealth base before, you know, all these projects happened, like 43 and the economic downfall of 2008, and even going further, you know, further back all along the way is redlining, and but less economic wealth to rely on. And then of course, institutional racism and the things I just mentioned. But I feel like Chicago had more wealth. I mean, Chicago just has more wealth in general. And I think that played a role in helping, you know, communities to mobilize, have more say, you know, have bigger resources to return to. Whereas I think Milwaukee really has to address its issues with poverty, especially in communities of color. I mean, that's just major.
Definitely.
And of course, like law enforcement and the way that people of color are targeted. And
I have had a few unpleasant encounters with law enforcement in the city, so I can't imagine what it's like for communities of color there. So,
yeah, me neither, but I'm sure it's extremely difficult.
Yeah, and I hate that we're trying to focus on Milwaukee, but somehow it's led to Chicago again. So,
well, I feel like it's, you know, it's a blueprint for a lot of American cities and a lot of American culture. In Milwaukee, it seems really stark because it's like these huge, you know, geographically people are sectioned off. And also, I mean, I think too, an average person who's never been to Milwaukee, if you told them that like 60% of the population is Latinx and African American, they would be surprised. It has its reputation as a white city, but it's not. And so I think that's, you know, for all the experiences I've had here where I've made mistakes and I've been made aware of my white privilege and my privilege as a cisgendered heterosexual person, feeling you know, like just all the kinds of privilege that I experience every day. You know, I've been aware of these things and had uncomfortable situations, and I'm so thankful for them, even though they like make you feel bad when you realize you're having like a thought, or maybe you did an action that was motivated by some kind of unconscious racism or something. I feel like in Milwaukee, just being around people, diversity makes you learn and makes you grow, and it's what we all want, I think. So just finding ways to increase
I hope it's what we all want. Definitely. Yeah. Same.
I have to run, so I guess I'm good. That will be I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for listening to my plan to fix the city.
Of course. I hope to hear a great plan from the other ladies as well. And yeah,
it's a pleasure meeting all of you, and I'm looking forward to jurying with you. Thanks, Andrea, for asking me.
Of course.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. All right. After that long discussion, I imagine the pressure's on. Gretchen, why don't we start with you? What do you think Milwaukee can do?
Yeah, I mean, wow. So growing up in Milwaukee, and then having spent time in cities like Chicago and LA, New York, and now Atlanta, I definitely think it's very kind of going on off of what Jesse was saying, it's very geographically segregated. And I think, definitely starting on a micro level in like communities and really trying to address the issues there. I wish I had the answers to these problems. But I do think another big one is, accessibility, because it's definitely from a social economic standpoint. Like I know when I was, running a theater company, one of the big things for me was always making sure like ticket prices were accessible to people of all different social economic backgrounds. And I feel like in a lot of ways, you know, especially in the city or certain areas of Milwaukee, I just don't feel like there's a lot of accessibility in that sense. And then also just engaging in conversations and keeping the conversation going on a macro level and on a micro level. I think there is something with, you know, Milwaukee kind of, you know, always being a little bit behind the curve, but it's also been called like this hidden gem of the Midwest. So I
like
think
Summerfest, just use an example.
Right. Like, I mean, how many people know that like Summerfest is like, you know, one of the largest music festivals in the world, or that, you know, it does
The
have
largest.
or the largest. Yeah.
Get so
You
much
know,
for your
this
money.
world-class, you know, art museum, the Calatrava, this brilliant, you know, UW Milwaukee always gets rated one of the top film schools in the country. So I think also there can be power in knowledge and just like, you know, not only having the conversations within your own community, but really going out to other communities and asking, how can we help bring, you know, bringing these different outlets together and like venturing outside of our own geographic bubbles. Because I definitely feel like people within Milwaukee definitely have their neighborhoods. You know, it's a very neighborhood city. I mean, it grew up on like the neighborhood bar. Like, you know, you went to that one area rather than venturing out what's down the street. And I definitely think that has also translated over into you know, the segregation issue in a lot of ways, and from a social economic standpoint.
And yeah, Michelle, what do you think?
I think that the segregation in Milwaukee is probably one of the most jarring things that I experienced when I first moved here, besides the bitter cold. And I'm not sure that I necessarily have a blueprint or know how to fix it, but maybe more specifically in like our industry, I think that curators can make a more conscious effort to program diverse films that represent diverse groups of people. I think that it's important for UWM and MIAD and MCT. What is it? Anyway,
MTV, is it?
No, there's
MATC.
another.
MATC?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
MATC.
I think it's in.
Yeah. They have a really fantastic film and TV department. Just in case anyone was interested.
I think it's important that they hire more people of color and just a more diverse group of people, because it's really important for young filmmakers and young makers of like any kind to see themselves represented both on screen and both in the people who are teaching them. Let's see what else. I don't know. It's such a hard question. I think maybe I'll just leave that input for now.
And Molly?
I am going to follow suit and just do our industry in Milwaukee, I think. This is really hard. So I'm fighting very hard against my fire sign sun sign who just wants to talk about burning everything to the ground, which I have become notorious for in a lot of our meetings at work. And trying to be productive with these kinds of conversations, because I feel like as a queer person, I end up in a lot of conversations where there's a lot of talk and a lot of promises and then not a lot of change. And I can only imagine what that's like outside of my very specific bubble. So something that I think is really important is looking at where funding is going and who's getting funded and what kind of work is being funded. That's something I've been really grappling with this week. Other things are, I think, hiring practices is a great point that Michelle had. On the conversation of accessibility, I think a huge, detriment to our city is that we we have a really fantastic bus system, but there's this weird prejudice against buses in like wealthy white communities, which is fascinating to me, in the most messed up way. But besides that, we don't really have a public form of transportation, which I think you then create even more barriers to access depending on where you're hosting events, or where, just because the ticket price is accessible, if I can't get there in a reasonable amount of time with a reasonable amount of money, I'm not going to go to this event. So that's something that I think about a lot in the work that I do, whether it's in theater or film spaces, because I'm also a theater nerd. So I love that there's multiples of us. I don't know. I feel like, to circle back to what Jesse said, there's a lot of growth. These institutions were built to keep certain communities down. And it's really important to recognize that, and to recognize sometimes we uphold systems that are tearing other people down. I think that's a huge thing that white women we need to grapple with right now, and that white femmes need to grapple with. And making space. I think that there's a lot of us on here who just, I think it would be really cool to just make space for these conversations to continue, with people voluntarily coming to the table, right? Not putting emotional burden on communities of color to do the work, but to take the feedback and run with it and make as much change as we can. Or better yet, we burn everything to the ground and start over. And we only let trans women of color lead us forward, because they've done all the work thus far and should be thanked for that, and allowed to take a nap, because
yes,
that's my rant. I am so sorry, but whenever I'm on my soapbox, I kind of go for it.
Whenever I go to women's events, there's always a bunch of apologies. Please.
Yeah, us women need to stop apologizing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's always so polite. If we brush up, oh, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead. Not that I don't like politeness, but yeah, I wish I had the solution too. I try to be as much a part of the solution as I can, which is why basically I try to have these dialogues, which occasionally make me uncomfortable. But yeah, I think you pretty much all just said it, like just getting out of our bubbles, just making the effort to do that, to hire people, and for a lot of institutions to put their money where their mouth is. I think, like for example, Sundance. One of the reasons I was able to attend for a couple years, and why such a more diverse crowd was able to attend, is because they did that stipend thing. So someone could attend this magnificent festival that's also one of the most expensive film festivals you will ever attend. Yeah, you all have probably heard. It's a small town. You can't really cheap out on housing. They jack up the prices, and yeah, getting around. But I love Sundance. It's one of my favorite film festivals, I got to be honest. But yeah, now that we've done some tougher dialogue, I want to ask all of you, what do you love most about filmmaking, about what you do? And Michelle, I think I'd like to kick this off with you.
Ooh, that's. I think what I like most about filmmaking is that it helps me process the world around me, and I think that it helps me to know myself more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Gretchen?
Yeah. Sorry, I have a little cameo appearance by my dog.
Well, he's adorable. He's not a cat, but he's okay.
Yeah, hello. That's a layered question for me. So I think as an actor, for like acting, something I really love that one of my teachers said once was like, we are ambassadors to feelings, like, being able to feel so then other people can, experience that. I think so many times in our mundane daily lives, we forget that like we're human and we all have these universal feelings, and that's what bonds us and ties us together. And then from kind of a creative and producing side, from both theater and now dabbling into producing my own shorts, I love bringing I love the creative collaboration element of it. Like, I really love bringing the team together and like always, bringing, people who are smarter than me in the room and just kind of to learn, and that you never stop learning in this artistic pursuit, in this profession.
Mm-hmm. And Molly?
So I have not been making my own work at least not film, for a little while. But one of my favorite things about the work that I do is I learned really quickly that, I got into filmmaking because I wanted to see myself depicted on screen in some capacity, and to know that I wasn't the only one who was like a nerdy Midwest kid who was grappling with being queer. And then they made Booksmart. And so I guess I don't need to make that movie. Nobody needs to see another awkward white girl do anything. Like, we're good. We've done it. We've been there. So something that I really love is that I heard something about theater criticism, that, if there were more women, non-binary folks, members of the LGBTQIA plus communities of color, various representations rather than just communities of color. If we were having all of these kind of intersecting identities critiquing work, we would see more diverse work being produced. And so that's something that I really took to heart, because I think for a while I thought I had sort of given up on my own craft. And so something that's really important to me is that while I may not be telling my story in that way anymore, I still write predominantly really terrible, like 13-year-old era poetry. And for theater, I get to help put forward work and work with filmmakers of all different types and telling all different types of stories. And that is something that I can go to bed and feel really good about at night, is that I got to help shepherd through people in Milwaukee who are making incredible work, who are telling stories that are so unlike mine, but have such incredible heart. And that is so much more useful to the world than just me telling my very specific story. That's at least what I tell myself, so I don't feel like I've given up on my dreams. So no judgment to people who are making work. And I firmly believe that art is social justice and activism. And so that's something that I do quite a bit in my own work, in like the performance space. I have always heard that you make art about things that you're angry about, because you have questions that are unanswered and you have passion and you can talk about it all day. Obviously, you can see I can do that all day. And so that's something that gives me hope, I guess, as we move forward into this very odd world that we live in.
As Dr. Stacey Dutton said in The Dilemma of Desire, I believe is her name, she said, okay, you're angry. What are you going to do about it? Have you all been watching a lot of films? I bet you've all been watching a lot of films throughout 2020 just because of the pandemic, probably. So I want you all to think about it. And you know how when someone asks, do you have a favorite film, and you immediately forget it all? Well, I'm about to ask you that now. So do you have a film that you really enjoyed in 2020? Ooh, Gretchen, I see you're wincing. That makes me think you should go first. That you think people should check out.
This is so hard.
You showed weakness and I pounced. Because I believe in supporting other women is all.
A favorite film?
Well, a favorite film, or maybe one you've checked out recently that you think people should check out, that maybe you think hasn't gotten a lot of attention.
Okay.
And it could be a favorite film for your childhood, like I said, a recent film, because I don't want to completely pounce on you.
Oh gosh. I feel like especially as an actor, I should be like, oh, watch this and watch that.
Or perhaps a film in a certain great film festival that's going on right now. Anything.
I gave my picks for the film as this film festival as I continue on forward. Does someone else want to go first, and I can have a moment to think? I'm trying to think too of like, could it be like a TV show or something, or maybe?
Well, that's cheating a bit, but go ahead.
Come back to me. Come back to me. Let me think. Give me a moment to think of something a little bit more.
Okay, Molly, Michelle, do you have one?
I recently saw this movie on Netflix called 40-Year-Old Version that I really enjoyed.
No, but I've heard of it. I've watched almost no films because I've been too busy with this. So I have so much to catch up on.
Yeah. But it's about this woman who is this Black playwright in New York who she like had won a 30, how is it called? This like specific award for playwriting for people who are like under the age of 30. And then like she had some death in her family happen, and like 10 years went by and like she never really produced anything. So when the film starts, it's kind of she's feeling kind of disillusioned with the industry. So it's about the pressure to be like a specific kind of maker, specifically when you're a person of color.
Yeah.
What's that?
Young and also young. Because everyone's basically telling her you're too old to do anything, right?
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
She kind of finds some inspiration through reverting to another form of expression that she really liked. She used to write a lot of raps. So she finds kind of inspiration through that. It's really great. I highly recommend it.
But women just shrivel up and die after 35. It's a well-known fact. You know? Joking. We're the only ones allowed to make that joke here. Us here. Molly, do you have one?
Yes. So I also am really bad at watching films, which is bad because I work for a film organization, but maybe that's why I'm bad at watching films. So I have watched a lot of really great TV, but things that I have watched this year that I would recommend. The Half of It.
I love that film.
Yeah, I just think we need more like young, awkward, nerdy, queer kids doing cool stuff. Anyway, I think it's great.
The smoldering gazes. Those gazes smolder.
Yeah, but we don't need any more like Kate Winslet films where we do like longing glances. I have a whole rant. If you want to get into the history of lesbian cinema one day, I'm here for it. Just let me know.
I don't need the pool. It's a tribute to repressed passion in itself. It's seen in. Yes.
You'd think that we could do one contemporary film, but it's fine. Anyway, The Half of It, strongly encourage it. It's been forever since Alice Wu put out a film, and so I was super pumped about that. I also watched a great film during the festival that my partner is still raving about called Golden Arm, which we watched on a whim. It's a fiction film about lady arm wrestling. And it has a totally lovely, very platonic female friendship, which you don't see a lot of. It was great. Loved it. Super great. It's everything about it is great. There's a bunch of the only critique that we had was that it's a little straight, but even the like straight love interests were traditionally not considered attractive men. So that was actually really awesome. A lot of the characters were just actual humans, which was great. And they were all real cute, and it was just adorable. Strongly encourage it. Very heartwarming, very chill, nothing too serious. And another film that I saw recently that I would definitely recommend was Coming Clean. It's a documentary about the opioid crisis. And total shift of tone from me here. I'm just throwing everything out to you. And it was really fantastic. And Andi Timoner, who's kind of prolific in the documentary filmscape, created it, and she's fantastic. And if we're going to talk about really badass, powerful women making strides in the industry, she's really cool. And Dee Reese's new film that came out. Haven't seen it, but like
Charlize Theron.
Yes, super high on my list because I love everything that
Oh,
she makes.
I wrote about it. What is that? Oh, The Old Guard. 52
Oh.
films by women column for that one. Amazing.
So yeah, that's it. I think. I don't know. I'm really bad at watching movies. I also really love going back to like feel good movies that are definitely not good movies, but make me feel good. So there's that.
Gretchen.
Yeah. So now, like, kind of this play, like thinking about films that really like struck me. This sort of played the film festival circuit last year. It was a movie called The Farewell. It was directed by Lulu Wang. Yeah, I was. It came to me because I was at opening night when it was at the Atlanta Film Festival, and seeing her speak about it, and it was so nice seeing kind of this foreign language film get the notoriety that it deserved, because it was so accessible to American audiences, and it was like heartwarming, touching, sad, and just such a beautiful story, and funny.
And funny.
Yeah, yes. Really funny. Yeah. And just it was just a really amazing film that I think people should definitely continue to check out.
Yes, I saw it at the Music Box Theater, and it was absolutely packed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was at opening night at the Atlanta Film Festival, and then the director spoke, and it was really fun to hear the story behind it as well, without giving too much away.
Yes, I've mostly been. I haven't watched a lot of the current films, as I've mentioned, because I've been doing the film festival. But for the funniest thing, for my 52 films by women column that I write, well, that I've kind of been neglecting lately for obvious reasons, I found about the 2004 film Debs, and it is such a low budget thing that came out in the time when sleazy, ridiculous cinema was just at its height. But it is just such a fun movie that addresses so much before that became topics of conversation, like these teenage spies who go out and catch bad guys, and the action stuff is just kind of ridiculous. But she meets this female villain, and they end up falling in love, and she's confused because girls who date boys, they don't fall in love with women. They weren't supposed to fall in love with women, especially not in film. You were either supposed to be strictly date men or strictly date women. So everything that they were trying to bring up, and the way her very supportive friends reacted. And the way this girl was like so conflicted. She actually says in the film, "I'm not gay," in a horrified way. It's just so unintentionally heartbreaking about how people legitimately would react to that kind of situation, even in this ridiculous action spy thing. But it's really, really enjoyable too. So on an even lighter note, I also really, dang it, I lost it. I also really enjoy, like, I've needed a comfort thing with the busyness of the stress, and I'm going to cheat the way none of you did and say She-Ra and the Princesses of Power has been my comfort show. Yes.
It's so good.
I ship Catradora forever.
I also, everything Noelle Stevenson touches is really fantastic. They have like some really incredible comics. Their wife has incredible comics. Their wife also has a show coming out that's similar. I don't know. If you're into animation, if you're not into animation, but you're into like badass, powerful women doing cool stuff, it's great. It's great. Strongly encourage it. Yes. Everyone should watch it.
Yes, definitely. Oh, I would have been Catador in that prom suit if it weren't for the friggin' pandemic. And that proms, because that suit rocks. It's still my favorite outfit. Anyway, Anyway, we have about 5 minutes left. So you guys kind of covered this in the beginning when you mentioned about what you do. But my traditional last question is asking what's coming up in the future for you. And Michelle, why don't we start with you?
I have been working on a film about Borderlands. So it's set in Miami, where I grew up, and it's about the way that the changing kind of shoreline has affected property values, which has led to something called climate gentrification. So I'm interested in this idea of this physical borderland being a violent place in a political sense, and then also relating it to the borderlands in the Southwest, how they are politically violent places as well, and have historically also been fluid. Yeah.
Fingers crossed that'll be able to get finished soon. Fingers crossed for you. Can't see me, but I'm actually crossing them for you. And
thank you.
You're welcome. And Molly, do you have anything coming up?
There's a really great, this is sort of a tangent, but there's a really great doc that I can't remember the name of. I was just trying to look it up, about climate gentrification and climate justice in the Chicagoland area, and how like racist intentions are behind a lot of our climate action in terms of who has access to what housing, and the fact that like your zip code could actually kill you. Anyway, I don't have the suggestion for you, so now I feel a little bad about bringing it up. But I love that that's what you're working on. That sounds awesome.
Thank you. That does. It's not called Cooked, is it? Survival by Zip Code?
Yeah, that's it. It is Cooked. Survival by Zip Code. Doc set in Chicago, and yeah, it's all about how like climate change affects structures that are built that are racist.
Did you say that was on Netflix?
I have no idea.
Oh, well.
I watched it. I'm so sorry. I made a suggestion and have nothing to offer you.
I'll find it. I'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is somewhere, I think. Yeah, things that I'm working on. Like I said, I don't have any film projects in the work, but I am currently working on just some writing stuff. I do a lot of volunteer efforts for like play selection, theater company type things. So I read a lot of work and select there. I don't do a lot of things in the film industry here just because I work with a lot of them in my professional life, and I like a lot of them, and I have to try and stay as unbiased as possible. It doesn't work very well. I'm very emotion driven. But I am working on,
I swear.
I'm really very introverted, so this is very strange, but haven't talked to people in a while, I guess. I was working on a comic book about what would happen if there was a global pandemic in Milwaukee. I have since stopped working on it because it got very overwhelming.
Oh my God.
So I've set that aside, and instead have been, one of my quarantine pastimes has been learning how to play Dungeons and Dragons in the peak nerd that I am. And so I am currently working on a writing project that probably no one will ever see, which is fine, where I made a bunch of characters simply by rolling dice and making things happen. And I have to figure out how to get them all to intersect. And at the core of it is this idea of like the herald of death and that in-between space that people live in, and what that would look like, which is actually the start of a play that I've worked on before. So I don't know what it is. It's somewhere between poetry, prose, and theater. So, but it's been fun and silly, and I needed a silly project for a little bit. So,
Molly, do you also play Vampire the Masquerade?
No, I have no idea what that is, but it sounds like a thing that I would learn how to do because I really like games.
And it would suit Milwaukee so perfectly. So I encourage you to look into it.
I will.
And I don't have time to, but Gretchen.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as an actor, things are, slowly opening back up, and just waiting for just auditioning when I can. Things are luckily opening back up slowly and, safely, learning all the new COVID regulations for being on set and with auditions. So kind of that's taking up a lot of my time. And then also I'm in post-production with my first short that I produced with a colleague and friend of mine. So kind of working on how we're going to be the next stages in that with post-production and marketing and all of that. It kind of looks, without giving too much away, it kind of looks at what it means to follow the community or go out on your own, and kind of has different tones on that with religion and cults and different issues, kind of very relevant to today. So.
Nice. Maybe year after next, maybe in the film festival or something. Also, fingers crossed for you. And before we kind of all go, I want to shout out Tyshan Wardlaw, who sadly couldn't make it. She had a last minute thing come up, but I want to shout out Wardlaw Productions because that's her big project that I know of. So Tyshan Wardlaw, Wardlaw Productions. Everyone here and everyone listening and watching should know her name. So
she's amazing, and she just I'm gonna brag
about her.
She just won from the Milwaukee Film Festival. She won the Cream City Cinema Jury Award.
Oh, really?
For best, yeah. Her feature film. It's her first feature. Growing Up Milwaukee. You should all find it and check it out. It's about what it's like to grow up in Milwaukee as a Black youth, and the activism that is required just to exist. And it's really fantastic. And I'm really pumped because I got to see that jury happen. So I'm super excited for her.
Wonderful. No, thank you for shouting her out. And I want to thank you all for agreeing to do this, not only meet, but be a part of the Film Girl Film Festival this year. So thank you. Thank you for joining me and having this talk and being a part of it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Quite welcome. Good night, all.
Good night.
Night.
Bye, guys.